was with Pastor Chris Hodges, and he is a pastor of a church in Birmingham, Alabama. Actually, a fairly large church, and it was, I don't know why it's me. He shared a really great message. Talk about depression. However, I will not leave you feeling depressed. I know sometimes it's a topic that not a lot of people like to talk about. However, his message was so good. My internet is staying unstable. That's weird. Amy, can you hear me and see me okay? Okay, Katie, thanks. Okay, perfect. Amy's the only one I can see. Good. Okay, I don't know why that did that. So I'm excited to share it with you. However, today everybody has to type something that they're grateful for in the box because tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and we are at a very grateful, thankful time. Hi, Milton. I see you on. Thanks for being on. And so let's start by one thing that you guys are grateful for in the chat box, and you can just go to more and then and hit the chat box, and you can type in the chat box something that you're grateful for. Oopsie. And today I am grateful for, a lot of things. However, I'm particularly grateful for Caitlin today. I don't know if she's on or listening because yesterday, Nick Baldwin, man, I feel like flattered that you are on today. Don't you have command your morning?
No, we took the week off.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for being on.
I shared it into a few groups for you too.
You are awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so glad. I hope you like today. I know you will, actually. I know you'll like it.
Anyway, I'm on here because I like the topic that you're talking about. So I appreciate it.
Cool. Great. Thank you. I am grateful for Caitlin because yesterday she rode with me in the car for 10 and a half hours because I chose to make a quick 1-day road trip and to bring my mom back for Thanksgiving. And so that I didn't have to ride alone and we could go together, Caitlin rode with me. So very grateful for Caitlin so that we got to spend some time together yesterday. Lots of gratefuls. Thank you so much. Katie, yours is a good one. Grateful for FaceTime, so I still get to see my family tomorrow, even though I can't be with them in person. I wondered if you would be with your family. I'm anxious to see, Pamela, a great one. 2 arms, 2 legs, worth about $4 million in the book. Yeah, totally agree with that. I'm anxious to hear, would love to hear from you guys in the chat. Are you guys seeing family for Thanksgiving, or are you quarantining? Would love to. Oh, Milton, I love yours too. Would love to hear that. Yeah, keeping them safe. Yeah, I think a lot of people are keeping safe and being away from family, which outdoor. Abby, that's what we're doing. We're having outdoor Thanksgiving. Same thing. Actually, right now, underneath of our carport, we have 2 big tables and chairs. We've already gone to Lowe's and got all of our folding tables and chairs. So that's what we are doing as well. So, okay, I want to get started. So last week I shared some lessons from John Maxwell. If you missed that, you can go back and watch the recording. I have some more I'll probably do next week too. John has a new book coming out, Change Your World. And it will be available in January. However, I do believe you can pre-order that. And you can check that out on Amazon. So, okay, I love Pastor Chris Hodges. I have watched and listened and followed him for a couple of years now, actually several years. And I love, whether you're a faith-based person or not, there's a lot that you can learn from his messages. And so he has a book coming out. I don't know actually when it's coming out. I don't believe it's out yet, but it's called Out of the Cave. And it's on depression, and it's stepping into the light when you have dark times. And I have not read it. I'm very excited to read it when it comes out. We got a copy of John's, but we didn't get a copy of Chris's new book. So I'll be anxious to read that. However, he did give us about an hour-long lesson around the book. And so that's what I want to share with you guys today. So let me start by saying, so Chris shared a message with us that in 1999, he had never suffered from depression before. And in 1999, he slipped into a really deep, dark depression. So much so that he didn't leave his house for weeks, maybe even months. And he actually ended up checking himself in to a center for depression. And through that, God healed him, and he learned a lot. And so it's a passionate subject of his. And I think, one, I don't think we talk about it enough. And so I wanted to share it. And two, you'll see why, because this year, depression statistics, you guys, are like staggering. Some of this stuff completely blew my mind. And so whether you've ever felt that depression, or whether you've ever had some times in your life where you felt a little down, or not, chances are you probably know somebody who has, and who maybe even is right now. So Chris said depression is not a malfunction of the mind, but it is a signal. And so it's a human being with an unmet need. And so that part I really loved, because it's just a signal in our mind letting us know that we have an unmet need somewhere. So this is crazy, you guys. And this part is a little depressing, no pun intended. But this year alone, 1 in 4 young adults, so under the age of 18, are actually depressed and have actually had a thought of committing suicide. 1 in 10 adults are depressed in 2020. Mental health callings are up 90% this year. 1 out of 9 people are on an antidepressant in 2020, which is up 30% from last year. And so the reason why he kind of shared this is because we're in this year that John Maxwell called the year of shock and numb, right? And for some of us, it's been the best year that we've ever had. It's been the best year for our business. It's been the best year because we've got to spend more time with family. It's been a great year for a lot of reasons, in a lot of ways, for a lot of things. However, for some people, it's not. And, I truly believe that let me back up. The reason why I intend to be as least judgmental person as you will ever meet is because I feel like in some way, shape, or form, at some point in our life, we're all going to experience something. And don't you know that the second that you judge someone else for something, it will happen to you or someone that you love. I don't know if that's ever happened to anybody other than me, but it's crazy. So I think we have to be really open to talking about this. So one thing he said is, it's okay to not be okay. You'll always be as sick as your secret. So number one thing that Pastor Chris talked about was you have to have someone that you can talk to when you're feeling down. And if you know someone who's feeling down, then you need to talk to him, reach out to him. You don't have to say, sometimes I think maybe we struggle with, we don't know the right thing to say. Well, I think at times there's not always a right thing to say. It's just being there, right? It's just being there. So there are 9 factors. This is an actual study. There are 9 factors that cause depression. Here's the thing that blew my mind, because a lot of us think that depression is strictly a biological, chemical, maybe hereditary imbalance. Here's what he told us. Only 2 of the 9 are actually biological. Only 2 of the 9 factors actually maybe come from something chemically that's happening to you. So I'm going to share with you the other 7, because this is the part I really want you to think about. The first one, the first factor that can cause depression is disconnection from meaningful work or a loss of purpose. And he said, underline the word meaningful, because we all get up every day and go to work. Most of us do, or we have some sort of work, whether we work at home with our kids or with our family, or whether we go to work. However, when you have a disconnection from meaningful work, you develop a loss of purpose. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this or not. I 100% have experienced this. And it can definitely cause a little darkness feeling inside you. Number 2 is disconnection from meaningful relationships with others. Again, the word meaningful. We all have relationships with others, but how many of you feel like you have meaningful relationships? And then I would challenge you to even think about this. How many of you have meaningful relationships more than you can count on one hand with others? And that's a really good question to think about. And when we lose meaningful relationships with others, that's a big factor that can cause us to kind of have those depression feelings. The third one is disconnection from personal values with intrinsic rewards. Okay, so here's what he talked about on this, and I had to really think about this. There's a difference between intrinsic and extrinsic. So extrinsic would mean like you're just focused on getting your paycheck, as opposed to intrinsic rewards would be you are aligning with your personal values. One of my largest personal values is loyalty. So being able to have a connection with my personal values and the rewards that I'm getting from that, that has to be in alignment. When we have a disconnection from our personal values, we get in a misalignment with our brain. We can that can cause us to have a little bit of depression. The fourth one is disconnection caused by trauma in childhood. So this is one, unfortunately, that we can't change, right? If any of you have had trauma in your childhood, you can't go back and erase the fact that you had it. However, this is what Pastor Chris taught us. It's not the fact that it happened, but it's the fact that it wasn't dealt with that can cause you to have a disconnection, which can lead to a factor of depression. There are so many adults that I think had trauma in their childhood. I know many of them. I have even some in my own family. And the fact, it wasn't necessarily the fact that it has disconnection from self-worth and self-respect. And this is when a lot of times you'll have people struggling with kind of their identity. Maybe they don't fully know their identity. They have some sort of disconnection from their self-worth or from their own self-respect. If you're a person of faith, then your self-worth is likely wrapped up in your belief in God or your faith. And the sixth one is disconnection from the natural world. This was an easy one. And this is literally, there are so many, I actually have researched this. Being outside for even 20 minutes a day in the sunlight is, you guys, insane what it can do for your brain, for your body, for your mind, for your thoughts, for everything. When we have a disconnection from the natural world, that's a huge factor. And that's kind of one that I think sometimes we actually don't think about. And then the last one is disconnection from the hope of a better future. I would say, I would love to hear your thoughts in the chat. I would say right now, I think we have a lot of people who could be struggling with not being able to see a better future, strictly because we don't know when this whole coronavirus is going to end. We don't know if we're going to, battle this for the next couple of years. We don't know. It keeps coming in waves. There's so many unknowns, right? We can't control it. So these 7 factors, if you want to take a screenshot, we'll post this in the Facebook group, but if you want to take a screenshot, you're welcome to. These are 7 factors that are not biological that can cause depression. So now what we're going to talk about is the opposite of that, and how do we fix it, or how do we help somebody? So first and foremost, we have the inability to process pain in a healthy way. We have an inability to process pain in a healthy way. And that's a lot of times what can cause people to get into a dark space or to be depressed. Everyone has pain is the reality. It's what you do when you're in pain. And that is what we have to think about is why sometimes we have that inability to process pain in a healthy way. This is really sad to me. Did you guys know that the overdose rate, according to the Washington Post, in March was up 18% and 29% in April in our nation? That's because we have a lot of people, not that there's anything wrong with taking medicine. I'm talking overdose as in like drugs. Actually, I think this was like a cocaine, heroin statistic. But because we can't process pain in a healthy way, that can a lot of times lead to substance abuse, which is causing these crazy overdose rates. So we have to give people something bigger than their problems, and we have to be able to help them see that. Pastor Chris talked a lot about being most on guard after your greatest victories. Actually, Linda McKissick has said that her coach, Dan Sullivan, has taught her that before too, that you have to really watch yourself after you have your biggest win. After you've had a really large win in life, you have to watch yourself. And the question is why? And so this is where his book came from, Out of the Cave. If you're a person of faith, in 1 Kings chapter 18, this is when Elijah went from having the greatest victory to literally being in a cave depressed in just a few verses in the Bible. And he did certain things to get out of the cave, and then he lived his best life that he had ever lived. And so the first one was attend to your physical needs. Actually, in the Bible, it says that he was eating, and then he slept, and then he ate some more, and then he slept, and then he ate some more, and then he slept. So you have to tend to your physical needs and your health. For some of you, you're really great at that. For others of you, you really have to work on that. And then for some of you, it's not even like in your realm of on your list right now. Actually, Nick, I love that you're on, because I know this has been your year of health. Like, you have worked really hard on your health. And I think that that's awesome. And sometimes it's just taking that commitment. So and here's the reason why: it takes health to solve problems. If you're not healthy, you aren't solving your problems the best way that you possibly can. So number one, you have to maintain health in every area of your life. Number 2, this is the part that I love. This was my favorite part of his whole entire lesson, and I'm going to share it with you on the next slide. Pastor Chris has a personal retreat every single month. He time blocks on his calendar. He has a monthly planning session. So he takes one whole day every single month. He goes somewhere. He's away from his family. He's away from his work. He's literally alone for one day every single month. And he does his monthly planning for the next month. And then he takes a monthly assessment and he grades himself on how he did the month before. He shared with us so many stories around how anytime he can feel himself kind of slipping back into that anxious, depressed kind of state, that if he is, when he can feel himself doing that when he's not assessing himself monthly, I guess is the best way to say it. And then I'm going to share that with you on the next slide. But then the third thing is to collect, ask, and answer questions. So the biggest question, and for you, one thing, Keller Williams friends on here, you'll know this. He actually said this was his question. What one thing, if I got better, would make the biggest difference in my life? So I want to share with you his monthly assessment and where he grades himself monthly in each of these categories, and he journals notes beside each one. Number 1, because he's a person of faith, is his faith. How was he with his faith last month? Number 2 was his marriage or your relationship, because to him that came second to his faith. So how would you grade yourself on your marriage or your relationship last month? Number 3 was your family. Not only your immediate family, maybe your kids' family, but also your extended family, your family around you, your parents or your grandparents or your siblings or your nieces and nephews or any of those things. How would you grade yourself on your intentionality with your family? The 4th one is your job. And I want to share with you, when he said job, he said it's not just your compensation job, but your calling job. And I don't, for those of you who listened to the podcast that Linda and I released yesterday, I shared at the end, I actually have kind of struggled with that probably over the last 2 years, having a great career and feeling like potentially maybe my calling is something different. I don't know if any of you guys have ever felt that way. If you have, I would love to chat with you about it. However, I asked John Maxwell at the end of actually at the last day, we all get to go up and have like a little bit of time with John, and he'll pray with you and talk to you. And so one of the things I said to him was, I feel like for several months, I can't, actually almost going on 2 years, I haven't been able to shake the feeling that I absolutely love my career. And sometimes I feel like my calling could be something different. And John said to me, whenever you feel something, don't try to shake it, because you're feeling it for a reason. So he said, remove that from your language. Don't say I can't shake it, because he said, you don't need to shake it. If you're feeling it for a reason. And then the second thing he said was, a lot of times we separate the two. We separate our job, how we get paid, from our actual calling. And he said, what you need to do is bring your calling into your career. And I thought, man, that's such a good idea. And he said, even if you're doing it, do that on a higher level. And every day, think about how you can do that more and more. And so I talk a little bit about that on the podcast. But so number 4 is rate yourself on your job. Number 5 is your purpose. And a lot of us, I feel like we struggle with what our purpose is. So even if you don't maybe know what your purpose is yet, you would grade yourself on how well did you do last month figuring out what your purpose is. Do you need to meditate more? Do you need to read more? Do you need to journal? Do you need to ask other people? You need to think about rating your purpose. How well did you do on your digital use time last month? And if you have an iPhone, sorry, Troy, I don't know about Android users, but if you have an iPhone, it tells you how much time you're spending on your phone now every single day, your screen time and where you're using it. So it makes it easy for you, but rating yourself on your digital use. The 7th is your time use. How did you spend your time last month? Number 8 is your finances. Number 9 is your social life. And here's what he said for this one. It's not just your friends, but it's your social network. And so you got to think about those as two kind of separate in one things. For me in 2021, one of my top 20 things I want to accomplish is to get into deeper relationships with friends who I can talk about spiritual faith with, more faithful friends. Number 10, this is a huge one, is your attitude. Remember, because your attitude is the only thing that you can control, is your own attitude. So how would you rate your attitude last month? Number 11 is your body. So how were you health-wise last month? And then the last one is your soul. And I want to end on talking about this one because when he said he got into talking about emotional capacity, and I think that that is really, really, really important. Let me just check the chat really fast. Yeah. Okay, Nick, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, all of those 9 factors are accurate. Um, yeah, definitely. Falling off your healthy wagon. Yeah. Um, funny. And then we've got some Android fans as well. Okay. There are 12-step program for Android users. Yes, I love that. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I want to talk really quick about emotional capacity. So here's what emotional capacity is. It's the ability to handle adversity, failure, criticism, change, and pressure in a positive way. This is huge. And here's what Pastor Chris taught us. Your soul, your way that you actually handle emotional capacity is like a house. It's built inside you like a house. And for those of you real estate folks, you will know this. When you build a house, and maybe for those of you who've ever built a house, you'll know this. You have the foundation, then you have the framing, and then you have the finishes. So your foundation is the base, right? Your framing are the 2x4s, the sticks, the nails, the part that's holding it together. And then your finishes are everything after that, all the fun stuff for us people who love to pick out the finishes. So I want to talk about the foundation, the framing, and the finishes of your soul to wrap this up. And my hope and my prayer is that you guys will be able to actually share this with somebody else who you feel like could use this. So the first one is the foundation of your soul. These are your relationships plus your connectedness. So how are you with your relationships and how are you connecting? Actually, I knew this, but I didn't know this, but I got this as a reminder. Did you guys know that solitude was actually the worst thing in the Bible, even before sin? Because he said no man should be alone. And so solitude is a huge, huge, huge factor in our mood, our mindset. And so you have to have your foundation are the relationships that you have and how you're connecting with those. The second part, which is the framing of your soul, is your purpose and your routines. And so actually, Pastor Chris Hodges shared a story with us that for the last couple of years, he's been using Michael Hyatt's full focus planner. Raise your hand if you're a planner junkie. Like, does anybody besides me really just go, Amy, I totally know you are. I see your hand, Katie. Yes. I love planners. I think they are amazing. And so this one made me laugh, but he said that he didn't feel like he had a good routine until he started working with the full focus planner. I'm a huge Michael Hyatt fan, but I've never seen his planner. But he said, mastering your mornings, and remember, all is well that begins well, right? It's not necessarily, we hear all is well that ends well, but the reality is all is well that begins well. So how are you with your purpose and how are you with your routines? Type in the chat if you feel like you're routine based. I would love to know, or if you're not routine based. I know Abby is. I know she's going to say yes. And then the finishes of your soul, the finishes part is trust plus self-control. So controlling what you can control, but then trust is actually giving up control on what you cannot control. And he says, if you can get a little more of these 3 things in your life, you'll have more peace than you will ever imagine. He actually said a quote that I loved, because all of these things, are there can be scientific facts around these. And he actually said, I love when science figured out what God always knew. I thought that was funny. And then he says, we have to think about dreaming in order to restore our health. And actually, did you know that health and dream are the same word in Hebrew? I did not know that. He shared that with us. Dreams and vision are a leader's best friend. Clarity of your mission on earth. So if you're a leader, think about that. And this is what your mind needs. And this is how you actually keep a great mindset. And so he ended with this, and I wanted to share this with you guys. A lot of you have heard the serenity prayer. Heather, definitely you're routine based, totally. Dawn, I completely agree with you. Having this whole COVID thing definitely doesn't help with our solitude, right? I feel like we're getting more kind of left alone than what we ever have. But anyway, I love the serenity prayer for a lot of multiple reasons. You'll see this a lot in AA or NA and all those type things. But I just think it's great even for people of faith and people maybe not of faith. And a lot of times we just hear the first part that ends at the very beginning within the wisdom to know the difference. However, I think the rest is so good. And so I would just challenge you guys to maybe keep this somewhere where you can continue to look at it and to read it. And then also think this week about your ability to spend time with other people and about all of these different foundations. And more importantly, I would love your feedback on if you guys, I am actually starting to plan my monthly retreat where I can grade myself on all 12 of those areas of my life. And so I would love to hear feedback on if any of you guys plan to do the same thing or actually do that. I think sometimes we want to do these things, and we want to have a great mindset and we want to feel better. However, we don't purposefully make the time to do it. I would love, just because you're on here, Nick, would you add anything to today? Because I respect you and I know your story, and I'm just wondering if there's anything additional that you feel like would be great to share on this topic, not to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I like this topic because, you know, I'm diagnosed with depression, ADHD, and anxiety. And I get weary a lot of the times about, you know, when people talk about it, from like, oh, you know, if you're depressed, here's what you need to do. And, you know, you just need to exercise more and read more. And so, yes, those things definitely do help. And I like that you brought up the fact that, yes, it is biological. There are aspects to it that are chemical imbalances in the brain. And that's why for those specific things, I'm a big proponent of medication. However, medication is not the only thing that will help you get out of depression. It's not like a miracle, right? You have to do other things. So you have to keep yourself healthy. You have to read. You have to feed your brain. You have to have conversations. You have to, you know, and it's not about having a lot of relationships. It's about having quality relationships. And so a lot of times I see people say like, oh, they did this and they were cured. You're never going to be cured because you have to keep doing it. It's not going to go away, right? Like you're either depressed or you have depression. And they're two different things and they're both serious. So from a depression standpoint, it's never going to go away for me, but I can keep it at bay and I can keep it in check by doing certain things that I know will help me. And if I don't do those things, then I slip back into that dark place. So I appreciate that you brought this up, and I appreciate that you didn't pretend that it wasn't a biological or chemical imbalance, because that is a big part of it. And then the other 7 steps, like I said, I couldn't put those 7 steps into words. And so I'm watching you explain it and I'm like, that is totally accurate. Like I couldn't put those into words. And then I'm looking at it and I'm like, every single one of those things apply to me. So I just wanted to say thank you for doing that, because so many people just discard the biological aspect of it. And I appreciate that you didn't do that.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I would love to talk about that. However, I'm not smart enough to. So I focused on the other 7.
Well, the other 7 are very important, but I just want to thank you for not omitting the biological aspect of it, because that's the part that a lot of people don't really understand.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Thank you, Nick, for sharing. Thanks so much. I hope that you guys felt encouraged by this and won. If you feel like you ever need somebody to talk to, I am totally here. I like to talk. And also think about people around you this holiday season, because you guys, I know there's so many people who aren't getting to be with their families. And for a lot of people, that's a trigger into a dark space. So I just want to wish you guys all a very happy Thanksgiving. I'm so grateful for you guys. I love continuing this every week. And thank you for those of you who are always tried and true and on, and for all of the new people as well. And Nick, you'll have to come back and share with us, and we'll have to give you like a whole session one week. So thank you.
I'll talk all about my complete mental problems. Don't worry. I'll get all into my insanity.
All right, guys, have a great Thanksgiving. Happy Wednesday. See you later.